Now, let's get a bit more on what on earth it is sending back. What kind of information is it beaming all the way back to Earth? It began with a blip, a pulse so faint that it nearly vanished into the cosmic static that surrounds our world. 4 decades, Voyager 1 had been nothing more than a ghost drifting through infinite darkness, its instruments failing one by one, its energy fading to a whisper. Then, against all odds, that whisper became a voice. The signal came in at 3:27 a.m. from the Deep Space Network's antenna complex in Goldstone, California. At first, the duty technician thought it was background noise, some errant reflection from solar wind. But as the spectrum analyzer processed the data, a distinct rhythmic pattern appeared, steady, deliberate, purposeful. Within minutes, the alert reached NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. The Voyager operations team, most of them now gay-haired veterans of a bygone era, were called back in. Something had spoken from the edge of interstellar space, and it carried Voyager's unique frequency signature. Dr. Marissa Chang hadn't slept in almost 2 days when she arrived at the control room. The monitors glowed an eerie blue, casting ghostly light across the faces of engineers who barely dared to blink. On screen, the incoming transmission flickered, weak, distorted, but undeniably real. Telemetry match confirmed. NASA says that Voyager 1 has become the first man-made object to reach interstellar space, the cold, dark region between stars, far from the influence of our Sun. Next, NASA says its Voyager 1 probe, the most distant human-made object in the universe, is sending usable information to Earth again. It's Voyager 1, the system analyst said. But the data packet's format is wrong. Voyager hadn't sent a valid data stream since its last system update decades ago. Its instruments should have been long dead. Yet, this new transmission contains structured binary code that didn't fit any of the probe's known telemetry patterns. They downloaded the stream into the archive system and began decoding. The result was chillingly precise. Groups of prime numbers, repeating sequences, harmonic intervals, not random noise, an engineered message. The audio component arrived next. When converted from data to sound waves, it revealed a low-frequency hum like the beating of a distant heart. Layered within were higher tones that shifted rhythmically, forming chords that no human composer could have imagined. Someone suggested that the interference might be caused by plasma turbulence or quantum resonance at the helipore, but the harmonics were too perfect. They formed ratios that mirrored natural constants, Planck's constant, hydrogen resonance, and the golden ratio itself. Marissa stared at the spectrogram until the shapes began to blur. Every frequency spike, every amplitude shift seemed to mean something, as if the universe itself had begun to speak in mathematics. 4 minutes into the transmission, the signal abruptly stopped. Silence flooded the control room. For a moment, no one moved. Then the analysis servers began spitting out corrupted image files. Fragments of visual data hidden inside the transmission stream. Technicians ran reconstruction algorithms. The first image that appeared was grainy but unmistakable. A curvature of something immense, metallic, glinting faintly against starlight. No known celestial body matched its contour. NASA classified the image immediately, labeling it Visual Anomaly 1A. Only a handful of people ever saw it. Over the next 48 hours, the data teams worked non-stop. They discovered embedded mathematical sequences encoded at fractal intervals within the signal. Self-similar patterns repeating at every scale. When rendered visually, the waveform resembled a spiral nebula folding inward infinitely. It's recursive, said Dr. Ethan Moore, a theoretical physicist brought in for consultation. Like the signal's folding space around itself, the phrase hung in the air, unsettling and incomprehensible. Further analysis revealed that Voyager's onboard systems had somehow reactivated without command input. Its internal clock had synchronized itself to a time code decades in the future. 2035 to be exact. Yet the transmission itself was dated 2025. Voyager's sending data from a time it hasn't reached yet, Marissa whispered. Outside the lab, the world remained oblivious. NASA released a brief public statement, calling it an unexpected data echo. But those inside JPL knew something extraordinary had happened. 2 days later, another signal arrived. This one was stronger, pulsing in tight, regular bursts, 5 seconds on, 10 seconds off. The intervals were exact to the nankand. When translated to binary, it produced coordinates, three-dimensional spatial data, pointing toward the edge of the Oort cloud. At first, they assumed it marked Voyager's current position, but cross-referencing with stellar navigation showed the coordinates were moving slowly, deliberately, and toward the solar system. "What's out there that can move like that?" Ethan asked. No one answered. Weeks passed and the anomalies multiplied. Ground-based observatories reported faint electromagnetic disturbances, echoing the same rhythm as Voyager's transmission. Deep space sensors picked up frequency spikes traveling inward through the helipore. Something was coming closer. The UN quietly convened an emergency science council under the guise of studying extraterrestrial interference. Publicly, they denied any knowledge of an approaching object. Privately, classified reports confirmed that the signals carried quantum entanglement signatures inconsistent with natural sources. Meanwhile, in the isolation of her home office, Marissa continued decoding the original transmission. She stripped away the noise, filtering out interference until only the bass tone remained, a rhythmic pulse spaced by mathematical constants. When she slowed the playback by a factor of 16, she heard it, a sound that resembled a voice. It wasn't language in any human sense. It was resonance, waves modulated to mimic speech through vibration. And within that vibration was a repeating pattern she could almost recognize. When visualized, it formed a circular array of lines radiating from a central point identical to the Pioneer Plaque's depiction of our Sun and surrounding pulsars. Voyager had once carried that image into the cosmos. Now something was sending it back. Her hands trembled as she zoomed in. The returning diagram had been altered. The central point representing the Sun was marked with a dark sphere and an arrow pointed directly toward Earth. She printed the frame, pinned it on the lab wall, and stared at it for hours. The implication was horrifyingly clear. Whoever or whatever had found Voyager knew where humanity lived.